My name is Sara Ann Brown, and today we are going to talk about escaping the cyber cult of the twin flame cyber cult. And if you have looked at the so-called twin flame stages, they are disturbingly identical to those of a narcissistically abusive relationship. They only use spiritual terms. And I would like to preface this with a warning that some of the things that I'm about to say may be highly triggering for some people who are listening. Nonetheless, I feel it is very important for me to speak up about this toxic belief system, like those brave souls who have gone before me. So up until fairly recently, I was still, maybe even a couple of years ago, still under the influence of this insidious ideology that has become almost mainstream on the internet. And it wasn't until I came across a video on YouTube entitled The Untold Truth of the Twin Flame Cult that the twin flame bubble that I had been in for the past few years had started to burst. And as I began to dig deeper, I came across the work of somebody who is into making videos and content on the indoctrination of the twin flame cult. And while there is no specific cult leader, the twin flame belief system is self-taught and then sustained by the individual through incessant watching of tarot readings, energy updates, YouTube videos, astrology, love readings, and so on. And there are a plethora of Facebook groups and a variety of different coaching and healing programs offered to the collective at a premium price. Thus, the internet plays an enormous part in this indoctrination process and keeping people hooked into this twin flame matrix. And one of the main issues in this industry is that this is highly unregulated and anybody can start claiming to be a twin flame expert. And they sell these variety of services and products in order to support you in and on your path back to a sacred. I'm a little bit ashamed to admit that I was amongst the cohort during my involvement in this cult, and it is absolutely a cult. I wrote numerous articles about twin flames, and I never began to offer coaching service, and I never hosted a Facebook group or an Instagram page. And the unfortunate truth is that the twin flame concept is a lie, a false concept that may at one point have had some truth to it, but has since been overly romanticized and bastardized to exploit our traumas, our fears, and this conditioning. It provides a false promise of happily ever after with our true soulmate. They believe that we are on this mission, in this predestined mission to help uplift the planet with our eternal unconditional love. And an abuser, as we know, will never change. And this is just a load of toxic garbage that is actually hurting people. If you are watching this and you felt a surge of anger or resistance or confusion, then you are likely still entrenched in this twin flame cult ideology, and you may be holding on to hope that your knight in shining armor or empress in shining armor will eventually proclaim his or her undying love for you and offer you the fairy tale romance and validation that you have been seeking since the beginning of your abusive relationship with your narcissist. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I hate to tell you that the brutal truth is that this is most likely not going to happen, and if it does, it will not last for long. And as my predecessors have explained, the relationship you have with your so-called twin flame is more likely than not it's not a sacred connection, but rather a narcissistic dynamic in which you have been subjected to repeated emotional abuse. And if you look at the so-called twin flame stages, they are disturbingly identical to those of a narcissistically abusive relationship, and only using spiritual terms and what is referred to as the bubble love stage and the crisis stage as the twin flames speak is actually the idealization and devaluation and then discard phase of a narcissistic relationship. And after the discard stage of a narcissistic relationship, when your so-called twin flame abandons you in some way or another, often to pursue another relationship, whether you are aware of it or not, you start to kind of Google for answers, and you need something to explain to you what you have experienced. And lo and behold, the twin flame dynamic is one of the first things that pops up. And from there, you are immediately hooked as a series of articles and tarot readings and YouTube videos flood your subconscious mind, programming you with this new false belief system that appears to describe your own experience down to a T. The trouble with this is that unless you know about narcissistic abuse, you are unlikely to find the information, even though there there are now plenty of these things saturating Instagram, saturating the internet, and this is likely because this twin flame cult phenomena has taken up even more virtual real estate and is infinitely more appealing than the stark reality of narcissistic abuse. And this is where the twin flame system sinks its hooks into a very vulnerable victim. And as you unknowingly become a devotee of not one cult, but two, several experts on narcissistic abuse have likened this toxic dynamic to being in a cult as it's a cult for two, a cult nonetheless. As this is because the narcissist often uses underhanded manipulation tactics to groom you through the idealization or the love bombing stage and continue to control you via a variety of insidious means throughout the duration of your involvement with your narcissist. So say you have caught on to what is going on and you can see through the layers and see through their ways. There are layers of deprogramming that needs to take place before you can truly be free of a narcissist grip and a narcissist influence. And if you have been indoctrinated into the cult of the twin flame, you also need to detox yourself from this programming as well. So in a way, it is truly like a mini cult within a greater cult. And personally, I believe that the intoxicating allure of the twin flame cult is down to the fact that it wraps every single thing you are experiencing up in a neat little bow by exploiting your traumas, your fears, and your weaknesses, as well as your vulnerabilities, and as well as conditioned desires that are all in one false belief system. And the cult knows that you have likely been rejected and have abandonment wounds from childhood, and that you are having strong empathetic or codependent traits, and thus you may have strong people-pleasing tendencies and a desire to help fix others, and in this instance your alleged twin flame. As the cult also recognizes that you too may have experience somewhat of a spiritual awakening during this tumultuous, traumatic, and confusing entanglement with the person that you have now identified as your twin. And that part of this may have involved a plethora of metaphysical experience, such as lucid dreams, visions, and premonitions about this person and your involvement with them. Human beings are often inherently kind of lazy and the idealistic truth seekers at the best of times. And it is far easier to accept this ideology that encompasses everything you have experienced on the premise that you did find unconditional love and that you physically reunite with the object of your obsession and affection once you have worked on yourself enough and you are healed. I could go on and on and on, but there are too many elements to address in one video. I will likely be making more videos in order to bring all of this to light. And the main point that I wanted to make with this video is that the twin flame belief system is absolutely a cyber cult, and it is insidious and damaging to say the least. This fake ideology has taken off so fast that a wide variety of unsuspecting victims have been caught in this cyber net. So there are young and old men and women, people in their 20s and their 30s and so on, who are holding on and are traumatically bonded in these abusive relationships because they feel they have met their twin flame and they are destined to be together. Meanwhile, 20 years go by and they haven't heard from their alleged counterpart, or they have been spoon-fed breadcrumbs of attention to keep them stuck waiting in this purgatory. And as the narcissistic harem garage piles up in hopes that one day he or she, the narcissist, will wake up and come to be with the believer in the twin flame cyber cult. My name is Sara Ann Brown, and this is Narcissistic Abuse 101.